General Hasnain, is China the glue that brings India and America together, or is China one aspect? There is much more that brings the two countries together, sir.
Thank you, first of all, Gaurav. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity to be on your show. If you had asked me this question 5 years ago, I may have dilly-dallied, I may have spoken in the grey zone, but today when you ask me this question, I speak in the positive. Ever since the events of 2020 April, there is an element of greater seriousness. In fact, I would take this back even to Doklam 2017. There is a level of seriousness that China's intent against India seems to have arrived. The actual intent against India. And that is to browbeat India, show it as if it is in the second place in Asia and in the international environment, and that if it decides to join the other forces led by the United States, then India would cut a sorry figure somewhere. Now that kind of an attitude which it adopted obviously led India to start taking its threats much more seriously, despite the fact that we doubled our trade to $125 billion, much of it in favor of China. But despite that, we know that this is a two-track kind of a thing which is going on. On one side, a trade which is progressing, and the other side, China trying to make sure that India does not emerge as a competitive neighbor. They're trying to browbeat India on the border, trying to second case it, and also to try and impact its strategic confidence. All this, when you see together, you see that India, the emerging Indo-US relation today, is one of the major triggers for this has been the cascade of events from April 2020 right till 2022-23.
So if China wanted to browbeat India, Sushant Sareen, clearly China appears to have failed, because India is actually, as is argued, looks for an opportunity in an adversity. Aapada mein avsar, and getting the GE414 engines or the Sea Guardian drones or space technology, critical and emerging technologies, semiconductors being made in India, all of this is actually disadvantaged China.
Yeah, but Gaurav, I would say that the relations between India and the US have been a work in progress over the last almost 30 years, even before China became as big a threat for the United States as the United States perceives it to be now. Much before that, at a time when the US actually believed that the Chinese will become a kind of a mirror image of the United States, that they will become something very different from what they are. Even when the US had romantic notions about China, even at that point of time, our relations with the United States had started growing. But I think now the Chinese have done us a favor by lending greater urgency to the US-India partnership. I think we must thank Xi Jinping for what he has done. His belligerence, his bullying countries, his expansionism, all of that, I think, has been for India-US relations. And these relations, clearly the Chinese have ruffled a lot of feathers. First came into existence, which was, it was being spoken about back, there wasn't much interest, neither in Japan nor in Australia. Even India and the US were somewhat lukewarm towards it. Look at Quad today. Look at the number of areas in which cooperation is growing between the two countries. It's not just defense and technology issues. It's a whole range of other issues, including supply chains, including many new frontier technologies, including things like cooperation in infrastructure development, in this whole concept of global south and how to bring it up. So when you look at the sheer breadth of the relationship between India and US, or India and United States and its allies, I think it's a completely different world today than what it was maybe 10 years back or even 5 years back.
And perhaps
we need to look at it from that point of view.
Yes, Abhishek, there is realization in the United States, India perhaps is the only country in the world that's standing up to China, and how, whether it was Doklam in 2017 or Galwan in 2020, and it continues. India refuses to buckle under Chinese pressure, and that is why India has to be strengthened in American national interest.
Well, definitely, Gaurav, there are a lot of strategic interests when it comes to whatever we are seeing between the two countries, and how several deals have been signed up. A lot of thrust on defense that we've already discussed here, also on high-tech new systems, semiconductors. All these are strategic, deals. It's not just trade between two countries.
Yes.
So that's something that that the US is looking very closely at when they want to enhance cooperation with India. And one thing is very noteworthy, Gaurav. Since the tussle in Ladakh, LAC, not just China, particularly LAC, has found a lot of references in official US discourse. Time and again, we've seen Department of Defense reports of America that have mentioned aggressive maneuvering by China, particularly at the line of actual control, references to Ladakh, the expanding villages that they have across the LAC. And in fact, recently there is a senatorial committee report of Foreign Affairs that condemns these kind of Chinese aggression at the line of actual control. So very clearly, whatever developments have happened at the line of actual control, US believes they can be, exploited to enhance this cooperation that US is now seeking with India.